You're most welcome in this particular museum. There's no admission, no requirement of membership, only a strong and abiding belief in the dark at the top of the stairs, or things that go bump in the night. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Night Gallery.
All right, art lovers, welcome back to Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast, where we take a look at Rod Serling's follow-up to the Twilight Zone 1970s, The Night Gallery. And joining me here in the gallery are Chris Stashu from the Culture Cast. Hi, Chris.
This ain't your daddy's Twilight Zone.
Okay.
That's even the tagline for this Night Gallery: this ain't your daddy's Twilight Zone.
That would be like what happens in the Night Gallery stays in the Night Gallery, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's fair. Also a good one.
Also joining us from the projection booth, Mr. Mike White.
I so want to make a reference to Fang, but I don't think anybody's going to get that with
Fang. Yes, I remember Fang and Phyllis Diller, of course.
Good.
And he's mentioning it because we're going to be talking about Phyllis in a second. In fact, we're talking about season 1, episode 5. This aired on January 13th, 1971, and broken into 3 segments. The first is Pamela's Voice, then Lone Survivor, and The Doll.
Welcome, art lovers. We offer for your approval a still life, if you will, of noise. A soundless canvas suggestive of sound. The mouth belongs to Pamela. In life, a shrieking battle axe made up of adenoids, tonsils, and sound decibels. In death, an unmuted practitioner of fishwifery, undeterred and ungagged by what one would assume to be the great silencer. Some ghosts come back to haunt. Others come back simply to pick up where they left off. Our painting is called Pamela's Voice, and this is the Night Gallery.
Now, Pamela's Voice was written by Rod Serling, directed by Richard Beckert, and stars Phyllis Diller and John Astin only. It's about a murderous husband who discovers that all too late that the difference between heaven and hell. Chris, you want to start on this one?
Can I tell you guys something funny?
Sure.
Yes.
I didn't know that was what Phyllis Diller looked like.
Oh, really?
Like as a
Wow. Did you just know her as a toon puppet?
An older person,
Oh, okay.
like in her 70s and 80s. Like when I didn't know. I mean, I knew because the episode told me, but I was like, "That's Phyllis Diller."
Yeah.
I only really think of Phyllis Diller when she tells when she's in the what the fuck is that movie called? The Aristocrats.
Oh, okay.
She's in the Aristocrats.
She was the voice of the Queen in A Bug's Life. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't like. She didn't look like Phyllis Diller. Outside of that, though, Gomez Adams killing his wife. I mean, come on. John Astin's great.
Are you saying come on like you can't believe they made him kill his wife, or you're saying like hooray?
No, I'm saying come on, like that's very tongue in cheek, given that the character that he is more or less known for playing loves his wife immensely. And in this, he's like, yeah, fuck you. If this is hell, I'll die again. Like, all right.
I love that I grew up with Phyllis Diller. Just she was always there for the longest time. Just always there. TV, movies.
There were so many more variety shows and stuff on TV all the time. On talk shows all the time.
Well, she was even the monster's mate in Mad Monster Party. So we've talked a little bit about her before.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, very bad. But I mean, she was just doing Phyllis Diller,
Fang.
kind of her thing. Yeah. And literally, because Fang was like the husband.
Yep.
I'd be able to remember this one. It really made a big impression.
Yeah, because nothing happens. Yes, the simplicity and beauty of it is the brevity. And
to be fair, though, like, was there any more that they could have given us and or that we needed?
Not really.
No.
Right.
I mean, it's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in 2 minutes with ghosts? It suffers from the Rod Serling overly writeritis, and it is bottled and whatever. But like you said, Chris, it's quick.
Doesn't overstay its welcome.
Definitely. And some of their barbs at one another are actually pretty good. Like when she shows up as a ghost, seemingly for the first time, she says, "You're surprised to see me?" And he says, "No, I'm not surprised. You showed up everywhere uninvited your entire life. Why should anything be different now?" Like, that's good, I will say they sort of tread with or they sort of treat lightly the notion at the end, which is this isn't a ghost story at all. She's in heaven and he's in hell simultaneously, right? Like that's what's going on here, which is really metaphysical and fun for a brief little morsel at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, I was having a hard time understanding that conceit. Her heaven is
torturing him.
Okay.
by talking.
Okay.
And his hell is being tortured by her from talking. It's like an O. Henry story in a way.
Yeah. I know. Again, it didn't overstay its welcome. John Astin's a good actor. He's great in everything I've seen him in. The Frighteners being one of those things. He's okay. He's not the best part of that, but he did, he's the father of Sean Astin. He's the original Gomez Addams.
And not only is he playing against type here, but he underplays everything. He's really spooky how quiet he is. Like I've never seen a performance like that from him before. So that was really welcome and interesting.
No, I liked this segment a fair amount only because it doesn't overstay its welcome. And the twist at the end is nice. It's a cheeky little twist.
It is. Like the jokes are not really that funny. I mean, I've praised it for landing a few, but like, I don't know, it accomplished what it set out to, which is a couple hating each other and now they're trapped together forever, and good for them.
And look, Twilight Zone 1985 did that. They had those like brief segments, those little, essentially what amounted to interstitials. It can work if they know what they're.
A couple of those are spectacular.
Children's Zoo. Yeah. Dreams for Sale was literally the name of the show.
I never really realized until we started doing this show how much John Astin had to do with Night Gallery.
I know, right? That, like, because he directed a segment we've already talked about. He's in this one. He's in another one. I can't wait till we get to that one because I remember it being hilarious. Like his performance is so good. I think he directs one more too, at least one more,
which is a lot.
Oh yeah,
Jeez Louise. Yeah, I don't think of John Astin as anything other than an actor. So it's interesting because we have already seen him direct something, and that was okay. I mean, I don't think he brought anything to it.
The failure wasn't the direction.
No.
I mean, you did with what you could, like the ultimate failure of the Tom Bosley Steven Spielberg episode is not the direction. It's the terrible script. And but at least here you can't go wrong with two people just throwing barbs at each other and then getting a pretty decent twist.
No, yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome either, which is the important part, because they could have shown him killing her, given us a couple scenes of them. It's like, I don't need that. Like they can do that through dialogue and it's fine, and they did, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's a rare instance where it's kind of a strength to just have them talking to each other. Like it doesn't feel like they're trying to skimp on a budget. Like, oh, don't this is a room of people talking. It's like, but that's what this is. It's just everything in this episode segment is just much more well thought out. You dig? Boot Hill, baby. Like, I love that line too in the middle of it. Like, he just throws that out. All right, moving on. Our next segment is called Lone Survivor.
An unforgiving sea usually buries its secrets beneath itself. Warships and ocean liners, treasure galleons and submarines turn into rusting relics inside a watery locker, lost to memory. But occasionally there comes a floating, unbidden reminder of disaster, like this lifeboat. The painting is called The Lone Survivor. We'll put it in tow and see where she came from and why. Now, this one was written by Rod Serling, directed by Gene Levitt, starring John Colicos, Hedgley Mattingly, and Taryn Thatcher. Now, this one, a lifeboat is pulled from the North Sea, but its occupant isn't exactly what he seems. What'd you think of this one, Mike?
I actually like this one. It goes on for a little too long with this whole thing of them pulling him up and he survived the Titanic. And I knew, pretty much right before they said it, I was just like, oh, they must be on the Lusitania. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so what's the next boat going to be that picks him up? Like the Andrea Doria? I don't know. But I kind of like this whole thing of this doomed person. And I like John Colicos a lot. I really, obviously him in Star Trek being one of the best Klingons around. And just, he's been around forever. He's got, I know you call this face weird, but I love that face. I think that's really good. And I thought that he played that survivor, the titular lone survivor. I thought that he played him very well.
I just now placed where he was from, Mike, because you said Star Trek.
Right? Can you see him with the goatee? And
holy shit, the OG Klingon.
Yeah, Klingon pride.
Him and Mark Leonard were like the original Klingons.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And he was Baltar too in Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
He was scary.
But man, yeah, it kind of reminds me in a way of a more subdued version of Richard Kiley's performance, where it's like a man racked with guilt, but with no way to deal with it. It reminds me a lot of that episode. And I think it's just, that episode, I think we are big issue with that episode was it went on too long. I think you're right. I think this one goes on one bit too much, because I think it could have ended when it was like the Lusitania, like that. You could have ended it right there.
Right there.
That's it hits that moment pretty hard. And then it keeps going. And it's like, but what, we know what he's already said what he is. Like, you don't need to force feed me everything.
Right. Yeah.
But man, the idea behind this episode's fun. I like this idea of this, erstwhile dickhead who kind of did one thing and now he's being punished for eternity for it. Like, I like that. The punishment maybe doesn't fit the crime specifically, but holy shit, Night Gallery 3x paid back.
Yeah, welcome to the Night Gallery, right? Yeah, I like this episode quite a bit. I have the same problem, I think, with you guys. It is just a little too long. And I think it's right at the top. Like you said, Mike, the procedural of pulling him up, like, quarter ahead, the calling it up and down. And then and the problem is, I noticed it right away. You wouldn't have cared if even one shot showed us the ocean. If they had shown one lifeboat bobbing on a wave, then we wouldn't have cared. It was all interior set bound and they're all just talking to each other, to the point where they're looking through the binoculars. They didn't even give us a binocular shot of the boat saying Titanic on the side. I kept thinking, do they understand this is a visual medium?
No.
All of this can be, even if they use stock
it's
footage,
in the Enterprise's. It's in the Enterprise's Enterprise's first aid station is what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so fucking set bound. Like, oh my god, looks like it was filmed in a closet somewhere on the NBC backlot. CBS backlot. Excuse me. I don't understand, because the episode's idea is sound, but then everything else is just kind of like, are we trying here?
Yeah, and why are we spinning our wheels for 3 or 4 minutes at the beginning with that, we gotta hoist them up thing.
Now you look. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What do you see? What do you see?
What the fuck is going on here? Get to the point.
Oh, what a weird way to start. But once he gets on the boat, I'm on board. Guys, my favorite record growing up as a kid, I had this a record. It was a Pickwick record called Famous Ghost Stories. And that's exactly what we get here. It was for kids, obviously, just old famous ghost stories. When he tells the tale of the wreck of the Titanic, man, I thought it was riveting. It's one of those cases where the set bound doesn't matter anymore, because the performance is so good and so captivating. The story he's telling is so good. What's weird is they tell us right at the outset that we're on the Lusitania. They pull him out and go, he's on the Titanic, and then they pan over and show the Lusitania.
Right.
So now it's not a, oh my God, we're on the Lusitania. It's that as well. It's is he a lunatic or not? But we already know that the Lusitania is going down. So that's kind of a false start. But what they end up coming up with, this sort of human Flying Dutchman, that none of those people are real, right? It's all set dressing to punish him, and he's going to have to keep doing it. And then he'll meet the ghosts of the Andrea Doria. That's really frightening to me. When right before it happens, when everyone is gone and he's left alone on the deck to watch as the torpedo nears, that's pretty good. We've endured a lot this season, but this one I liked a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun. And it does kind of just go on a little too long, but they want to get their more contemporary one in there. The Andrea Doria. I mean, the Lusitania is not, I guess it's kind of contemporary, but they wanted to go one step further. And I think by going one step further, I think it's one step just a tad too far. But you know what? It takes away time from some of the other less successful segments in this episode. So maybe it's not all bad.
Did you notice that, like, so this is a period piece, right?
Right.
This is the first.
Right.
This is the first period piece we've gotten from Serling for a long time. Notice how much better all the dialogue seems coming out of people when they're. You tell me it's 1945. I'm like, oh,
Right.
okay. Yeah. This everything is good. Everything makes total sense, and everything's normal, and everyone's attitude is good. We're gonna see it in the next one too. But like Pamela's voice, like, he's trying, but it ain't there, and certainly not in previous episodes. Like. He was not a man of the moment.
No, but that's okay when it was working in Twilight Zone. It's just now we're a little further ahead.
Right. And again, this is more like a Twilight Zone than not. I mean,
this episode segment for sure.
if you peeled the color off of this and said this is from 62, I'd be like, absolutely, I remember this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has that Twilight Zone flavor.
Yeah. I mean, it is a good twist, and
Yeah.
all the performances are good. Like,
It's a good twist, but you can't do the same twist in the same episode twice.
no, yeah, the Andrea Doria one at the end, like, yeah, it's like him alone at the end. That's enough. We got the point. Like, we know it's going to happen again. It clearly happened again.
Right. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. What a refreshing change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here in the night gallery.
We move now from ships like the Titanic and the Andrea Doria to a small fragment of history. This little collector's item here dates back a few hundred years to the British Indian colonial period, proving only that sometimes the least likely objects can be filled with the most likely horror. Our painting is called a doll, and this one you'd best not play with.
All right. Now, the last segment is called The Doll. Now, this one was written by Rod Serling, although he adapted this one. This was originally from a short story by Algernon Blackwood, directed by Rudy Dorn. This one starred Shani Wallace. Her name is spelled incorrectly. Wallace with an IS at the end. That's not right. John Williams and Henry Silva. This one's about a British colonel who's recently returned from India and finds himself the prey of a rather peculiar instrument of revenge. Mike, what'd you think of this one?
Oh, I sure did like seeing Henry Silva. That was nice. And Henry Silva can play
Bullshit?
any
not?
ethnicity. He's like the lower budget Anthony Quinn, Anthony
But even
Quinn.
more so than Quinn, right?
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
like you could plug him into virtually anything and I go, yeah, okay, sure. If he had been the Jinn in the Make Me Laugh episode, like it could have
much
worked
better. Yeah. I think he would have been much better. And it wasn't like they were calling for Jackie Vernon to do a whole lot of comedy on that. So
Right.
Silva's a funny guy.
Silva wouldn't even need the turban.
No, just those steely eyes.
But yet they gave him a turban in this.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Boy.
It's unfortunate this year. And it all seems to be pointing in one direction. What's going on, Rod?
I don't
Did
know.
you have a bad experience in India, like in between when the Twilight Zone went off the air and this show came on?
He's a big fan of characters wearing turbans.
I think we all are, but that doesn't mean you have to take a white guy from Brooklyn and throw a little brown on him and we're going to pretend he's suddenly from,
Right.
At least he doesn't do a voice.
I want to say that about Jackie Vernon as well. That's the only silver lining in both these performances. Neither of these guys like sort of descended into Apu.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And I wonder if they were prodded to do so and chose not to.
Mm.
Or really wanted to and chose. Well, we'll never know, I guess. But like, thank God in the end, we didn't get that accent.
But thank God we got John Williams as a creepy doll.
Oh, certainly. Who's got that doll these days?
God, that's the question that's on everyone's mind. Yeah. So the doll is haunted. No, the doll is cursed with it's cursed. It's hexed by Henry Silva.
Yes.
Mhm.
Animated by him. Or is it its own thing? Did it come to life?
How does he turn into a doll? What is going on in this
Was
episode?
the doll the brother?
Yeah. I was a little bit more than confused. Yeah.
I really enjoyed it when I was watching it. And now that I'm thinking about it, with the initial doll that Henry Silva sends to the Colonel, was that a doll that he made animate through magic? Or is it a like personification of somebody that he loved? Because he's there for revenge for his dead brother, right?
Yeah.
So
It couldn't have been his dead brother, though. It was clearly like a little girl doll.
Right.
I thought that the doll was there to kill John Williams.
Right. So
Maybe.
okay, but Henry Silva never like spills the beans as to like what is particular is making that thing run amok, right?
There's like 2 or 3 scenes missing.
Yeah, you know what? And I always hate when anything sort of genre and supernatural like over explains things, but like a word or two would be okay. I can handle it.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on here. Like I watched this episode 3 times, this segment, and I still don't understand what the dolls, because he freaks out pretty hard at it. He's like, oh my God, like, oh no, like, holy shit, man, like, get this thing out of my house. And everybody else is like, it's just a doll, man.
Yeah,
can I defend him a little bit? It's a horrifying doll.
It
oh,
is,
yeah. But like,
I mean, it's really frightening.
I'm Tiny Tina and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, and this is like what's supposed to be like 1916 or something like that, right? Like, and he just got back from India, and like suddenly his little girl shows up with this doll, and it's all blasted, black-eyed, and freaky looking. And she's like, "This is my favorite thing in the world," and it talks to me. I'd be like, there might be a problem here.
If this thing is talking to you, in what voices is it using? The kind that are in the lower register?
Putting aside that it might be an instrument of vengeance, like it's a really weird doll for your child to be toting around.
Yeah. Well, it's like in Annabelle. Like the original Annabelle doll is a Raggedy Ann doll that looks unassuming.
Anyone would love that.
You made it really scary and kind of missed the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary because it's innocuous, not because it looks like a horrifying creature.
Right.
All right. And I'm sure they would counter like, well, we couldn't do the Raggedy Ann doll. It's a copywritten thing. It's like, yeah, but you made it a gargoyle. Like, how about just a pleasant little rag doll?
It's like the same doll in this episode. It's that same thing where it's like kind of weird and like tarnished and its eyes are strange and it sits and stares at you. Get out of here. Dolls aren't scary. I understand why people find them scary. I personally don't. But you can't tell me that everybody's not going to look at that doll and just be like, it's got to go.
Yeah, put that away.
Is your kid something wrong with your kid? Like, why are they toting around this horrifying ghoul of a doll?
I'm going to give you guys my hope chest. It's for your child. No, more specifically her doll. That needs to go. So yeah, I was on the Colonel's side for that, and so what does this end up being? Just like a parable of like World War II guards or something? Like I was just following orders, but you're going to get it anyway. But then double cross, supernatural double cross. How did that happen? I loved it actually, but I don't know how it happened.
What happens at the end? So Henry Silva gets a doll of John Williams. Does that mean Henry Silva's going to turn into a doll himself?
Maybe. I think maybe the magics that Henry Silva was involved
CKS.
with. That created this doll that went off and murdered murdered this guy. Like,
but did it murder him?
That guy. Well, he's a doll now, right?
But
are you saying is it like a gift or
like did he just turn into a doll? Is it like a Chuck? Is it a Chucky thing where like
that's what I thought.
Where his spirit is in the doll, but his body is dead. He didn't turn into a doll. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. Why did the doll look like him then?
I'm even more confused. Why is this one so confusing, but I don't hate the episode? and there are episodes that lay everything out so wonderfully, and I never want to think about them again.
It's because you like that doll so much.
It was a good doll, man. And Henry Silva, like, breaking down barriers, and like, we can accept him for some reason.
Yeah.
Who knows?
This episode overall isn't bad. It's definitely better than the last one.
Oh God, yes.
The doll had pretty good music too. Like they were leaning heavy on the Waterphone early 70s like horror TV creep factor.
Well, when you've got John Williams as your main character, of course music's going to be good.
Right, the one and only John Williams.
Guy can do everything.
Yeah, man. He can be a doll. He can be, you can
retire from composing, but don't ever retire from acting, John Williams. Not from what we've seen here today.
And he's going to be on an episode of Columbo here in the future. So
yeah,
composer John Williams, Johnny Williams to his friends.
Yes, yeah, composer John Williams,
just coming off of the Lost in Space theme song. Yes,
yes, exactly. He was a jazz man, that fella.
Yeah, he's about to head into the long goodbye territory.
All right, hang on, folks. We're gonna play a commercial for our next episode.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an exhibit of the eerie and the oddball. Our first offering this evening, Faces. Paint, pigment, and desperation. The quiet desperation of men over 40 who keep hearing footsteps behind them and are torn between a fear and a compulsion to look over their shoulders. The painting is called They're Tearing Down Tim Riley's Bar. Welcome, art lovers. We offer for your approval a painting which has to do with what happens to men who take a walk into nature's marketplace and exchange certain powers for other powers. The blind, we're told, for example, develop an extraordinary sense of touch. In this case, the story of a man who perfects the art of killing. Our painting is called The Last Laurel.
All right. Until then, where can people find you, Mr. Crustaceo?
cstatue.com. That's my link tree. Go there for all the things that I work on. Some of the stuff I work on with Mike White. We do a Columbo show together. And on our next episode of this show, Jack Cassidy is in it. And he's in an episode of Columbo that we did. So that's a thing. Yeah, so that's a thing. And that was directed by Steven Spielberg, who directed an episode of this show last time we talked. And it was bad. But that episode of Columbo is good. cstatue.com is where you can find it.
And how about you, Mike?
You can find me at the Projection Booth, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com.
All right. As for me, you can find me at fathermalone.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.